All right. So I have a scripture I wanted to share. Thought it felt kind of in line with this week. I was reading a talk actually from President Hinckley called "The Environment of Our Homes," and then it brought to mind this scripture. So this is section 88 of the Doctrine and Covenants, verse 119. It says, "Organize yourselves, prepare every needful thing, and establish a house, even the house of prayer, a house of fasting, a house of faith, a house of learning, a house of glory, a house of order, a house of God." And I'm learning or have learned or continue to learn that it takes effort to establish the home environment that we want. It doesn't just happen. We have to do things deliberately. There's always something to tidy up. It's prayer doesn't happen on its own. Little things like that. So, having that little list of things to work on. I think if we're even working on one of those things, a house of fasting, maybe on Fast Sunday, or a house of learning, whatever we want to focus on, it brings blessing. So I'm glad that verse came to mind. And, kind of fits in a little bit with some of the things that we read this week, or are reading this week, as we jump into that. So, let's have a prayer if that's okay. Do any of you want to offer that?
I will.
Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we thank Thee for the opportunities which we have to learn and grow and to work together. We thank Thee for Brother Stanley and his efforts to teach us, to help us to be better managers and better workers. And at this time we pray for Thy help, that we will learn and retain what we have studied and learned. Please help us as we continue to finish this semester and work on finals and projects, that we might do them with remembrance, and that we will be able to apply these things in other areas of our lives. And we pray for those who are not with us, that they will be able to learn from this video or join us shortly. And we ask these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. Well, thanks for joining. Interesting topic this week, workplace and society. I think that feeds into a lot of things. Just wanted to kind of open that up. Why do you think we have this discussion in this class as far as, what's the importance of this topic? What do you think why is it so relevant, or is it relevant?
Well, at least here in Las Vegas, whether marijuana is legalized federally or not, it has been legalized here in the state. And there are marijuana shops all over. But that has been shown to impair judgment. And people come into work stoned and they can't do their jobs. Or they are causing problems for others by their actions. And, as an HR person or just as a person on the floor, you're going to have to work with them and deal with them. A lot of companies have stopped doing the mandatory drug testing because of the cost, and they start cutting back with the recession, and most of the ones who cut that out have not reinstated that. And so, unless you report somebody because of your suspicions, and even then, if you did report them, you'd have to be really careful so that they didn't cause some kind of prejudice on you. A lot of people are endangered because of what society has deemed to be acceptable.
Yeah, so social issues, right? They come into work. Substances and the legal environment. Yeah, lots in play on that one. What else?
Just more generally, like that one article that we had to read about, it was the guy that created Twitter, but the work environment that he works in, it's like very open, and he's just like standing all day and kind of just working in a really open environment. So it's important to know, you know, like if you're going to enter a workspace, you have to be comfortable with the type of working environment they have, or else maybe you won't be very, I don't know, maybe comfortable or as effective as you would maybe in another environment. So it's good kind of to know what you're getting yourself into before you go. Because I know for me, I don't think I would like being in an environment where I didn't have a chair maybe to like work at, like if we're all like standing up. I don't know, so that could come to play.
Yeah, that seems like a different world, huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they actually have new things that you can put on a desk. It's called a Very Desk. That'll allow it. You can bring it up if you want to stand. You can put it down if you want to sit. So that makes it a little easier. But I think the way things are going right now. I think the working from home. My son is getting ready to do that for like 2 or 3 times out of the week, and he's excited, but yet he's a little frightened because it's going to change the way things dynamics. I mean, the kids are running around the house. He's going to have to find a quiet place. My wife and I did it. We had our own business and we worked from home, and we found that we needed to address everything the exact same way. We got up in the morning. We took our showers. We got dressed. We didn't put on. I didn't put on a suit, but I did not, you know, lounge around in my pajamas either when I was at my workstation, because I felt that I needed to feel good about myself in order to be doing the work I was doing. When I was in my pajamas, I felt I wasn't productive. So there's some changes that you have to make when you're trying to work from home. Scheduling is a major concern, trying to schedule your time and everything else. So, but I loved it.
Okay. Yeah, it's very prevalent these days. All these different types of virtual work at home, different workplace environments, and so we have to be open to that and find out what works for organizations. So,
well, thing is now is the job that I work at now. It's a 45-minute commute.
oh wow.
So I have to leave, you know, an hour early to get to work. And obviously, when I get off at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, you're looking at getting home at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's not like it's a, you know, so that too has its pluses, because on the way in you're kind of unwinding, you know, getting prepared for work, but it's also got its negatives.
Yes.
Leaving early. An 8-hour day turns into a 10-hour day, basically.
Yeah, it makes the day longer. I've been in that position where I've commuted an hour, and I don't know, you have to be cut out for it or prepared for it.
Yeah.
Because work affects our lives 100%, right?
Yep.
And it affects our families, and so, you know, I think as we think through this, we have to think about how that affects us personally. You know, for me, I need to make sure that I'm keeping my family first, because I tend to get really involved in whatever I'm doing, and I have to balance that. So I think that's a challenge for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, you know, one of the questions I wanted to chat about was, so, you know, what was the old workplace like? Why have some organizations gone to this open environment? From our articles, I don't know how many of you have been around that. I haven't very much, but like the Jack Dorsey environment where the CEO is standing up in the middle of everybody. What are the pros and cons of that, do you think?
Well, a con would be if you needed to have a private conversation, you're really going to be obvious trying to find a place to go do it in. And, you know, where in the past it was to come into my office and to close the door, and, you know, that was it. But a pro of that is you're out there working. If you need to ask your coworker a question, they're right there in close enough vicinity that it is not a major walk down the hall, take the elevator to their office, and so that could be a really good thing, because some people really do have. I worked for an attorney who had very strict times when he would take phone calls and when he would not, and he stuck to that schedule like it was cement, and he would not make variations no matter what came up. And so calling him to ask a question would not have done any good, but if you walked into his office, because I've done so, then he'd talk to you.
Yeah, knowing the communication styles of who we're working for. Yeah, I think it makes the interactions wide open. But the privacy is one of the issues. Any other pros or cons?
I think it's also a pro that maybe the entire team would feel like just maybe really valued and a part of the team, seeing that the head honcho is like out working with them. They're not just like out somewhere else, but it kind of makes them feel like, okay, like we're all a team here.
I agree.
Well, I think in the old work style, which still exists today, obviously, it's really easy to go into your office and hide.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you can get work done if you want to, or you can just go in there and hide and put in your 8 hours and then just go home and not interact with people, unless they come knocking on your door. I think the new style is you get to see everybody. The workstation that I designed I had a lot of conversation couches in there and things like that where you could take some time off and visit. I think that's something that we don't take advantage of enough, to get to know your coworkers and enjoy their company, because really, if you look at it, they're part of your family, and you need to get to know them.
It's true. Yeah, we spend 8 hours a day or more at work, and that's more than we spend at home a lot of times during the week. At least for me.
I hardly ever get to see my wife with the schedule I work, so it's I don't want to say my coworkers are my but yeah, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah. And those interactions are important. So I think that's one of the challenges. So you mentioned your son going into a work-at-home role, or these virtual roles that are coming up.
Yeah.
And the reading addressed some of this, but how do we maintain or continue those interactions? That's the challenge.
It is.
And that isn't the only challenge. There are still enough people who find working at home as a foreign thing that they figure if you're at home, I found that repeatedly doing online schooling, that you're at home, so you're free to talk to me, do an errand for me, do me a favor, whatever they might want to ask you to do. And surely, because you're at home, you've got time to do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's how my son-in-law has his office in his home. And that's how he is treated by a lot of people in his ward, or at least his prior ward, not so much in the ward they're in now. But he was treated like, well, you're at home, you can go do this, or this.
Yeah, I think it'd be difficult. So I haven't done it. I've done a little bit of it, and so my boss, she works at home. She's in Utah, and I'm in Idaho, and we have work-at-home teams of teams that work for us. So yeah, I think it's challenging. And my boss has mentioned at times, she's like, there might be times where I just call because I need to talk to somebody. So you have to create those interactions where they might otherwise happen naturally face to face. So that is an issue because what you're looking at is employee engagement. If you're not engaged at work, you're going to burn out, and you're not going to love life very much. So, Ashley, what do you work right now?
I have an internship, but it's actually from home as well, so I totally understand all of the work at home, school at home stuff.
Yeah, and then we're all at home doing this schoolwork too, right? So I'm glad that this class is heavy on the Google Hangouts because we do get that interaction.
Right.
You know, we're not just punching in a statement on a discussion board. So I am partial.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Oh, I hated the discussion boards with their 250-word limit for a comment that you could say in 10 words.
Yeah.
I did too.
It's challenging. So, hopefully more of the courses will go this direction. You can thank the course creator. His name's Jeff. I know he has been a big part of creating this. So it takes some work. It takes more coordination, to get together and get everybody in the same spot at the same time. But I think it's worth it. So appreciate your diligence on that because hopefully it helps the learning. And from the papers that you guys are putting through, seems like you're learning. So good job. So a couple other topics. Rosemary talked about the social issues that come into work. Another topic of one of the other articles was the work-life balance. There was some interesting comments. Did you guys read that one? It was the NPR article about the female CEO. I can't remember her name.
The sleeper.
Yeah, her last name was Sleep. Yeah, that was thrown in.
I know. It was so confusing.
I was too. I thought she was sleeping all the time.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, what did she have to say about work-life balance?
I think the one thing I found interesting is she said that, of course it was hard at first, and she actually had to fire some people that were taking advantage of it. But she also saw that she was getting more production from the people who actually embraced it because they were able to go to their kids' afternoon plays and things like that. So they were very productive because they knew they had to get their job done in order to get out at 3 or at 2:30 to get to where they needed to get to. So that I thought was really nice. And I also got a kick out of the fact that she said that she put this together and she said she could never do it.
Yeah. Yeah, she designed it. Yep.
Yeah. And she said there's no way she could work at home.
Yeah, I don't know. She says that, but maybe she would just have to make adjustments, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in the same boat. I'm not sure I could work full-time at home.
Well, I know that my daughter and son-in-law do, and my brother and his wife do, but I'm afraid if my husband and I were working at home together all the time, that he'd say, okay, I need a break, and he would be out that door and out doing the martial arts, and I'd say, okay, I need a break, and I'd probably head for the kitchen and cookbooks or something like that.
Yeah. Sometimes you need that, a little bit of space, but that's okay. That's normal.
Yeah.
That's
why I designed my workspace as a 20 by 20 room with 2 recliners in it and a big bookshelf and, then work areas as well. But everything but the bookshelf and the desk were movable so that it could be rearranged.
Yeah, it's interesting, and so there's a lot of reading or a lot of thinking out there about work-life balance and about finding balance. The Sleep lady, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, Mrs. Sleep. What comment did she make? She said that our current work environment, the 9 to 5 schedule, was valid in 1960. You remember reading that part? Because it used to be that, the husband goes and works on the assembly line, and then the wife stays home.
Yeah.
But now it's a lot more of a dynamic environment. And that flex time, I think the more organizations can do it, I'm all for it. What are you guys' opinions on that? As far as if you were leading a business, how would you handle that?
I would probably put in flex time. I don't know if I would do work at home flex time, but I'd probably do flex time because of the work schedules that people have here in my home. Uh, it's a rare day that we get to bed before 1 or 2 in the morning, and yet we still get phone calls at 7. Are you up yet? So if that's happening to me, it's got to happen to a lot of people where flex time would work better with what is really going on in their home lives.
Well, this is funny. I'm on a project at work, and I'm doing a matrix for our bus damage and stuff. And like the other night at work, I took like 140 photos, and I don't have the time to sit at a computer and put all this stuff in. So I asked my boss. I said, am I allowed to work at home? And he looked at me and goes, no, I can't do that. You have to come in and get on a computer there at work. And he said, so you're going to have to come in, 3 or 4 hours early. Well, I did that the other day, and I was kicked off that computer 3 times because it wasn't my scheduled time to be on it.
Yeah.
But he said he couldn't let me work at home because he'd have to let everybody else have that opportunity. Well, so what? Give them the opportunity. I mean, what the heck? Because you're not going to get the project done if you don't give me the time to do it. So it's a little frustrating. So I'm all about working at home if you're the type of person that can do it. You got to be that type of person.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed. Yeah, you'll find that. So whenever I hear of those contrasts, organizations that offer that flex time versus those that don't, there's a book. It's called The Speed of Trust. It's actually by Stephen Covey's son, Stephen Covey. Excellent book. So extending out that trust. So he actually puts science behind it and says, okay, the more you can extend trust to your people, you're going to get faster results. And I think flex time is a trust-based activity. So, if you're in those positions to have that influence, think about that. How can I extend trust? Because it really is going to help my organization. What do you think holds back that trust for organizations as a whole?
You have to develop a good relationship with each of your employees, and to be able to develop that trust, you have to also kind of step back for a second and kind of give them the chance to prove themselves.
Yeah, and that's not easy for some people, right?
It could be hard.
We see, so in the church we see that leaders are supposed to delegate. Do you think we delegate in the church as well as we should?
Never.
Why not?
Why not? Because sometimes you need something done right then. And if somebody's going to go wash their car first, it's going to really cause a problem because it really does need done right then. And so you say, okay, enough of that, I'm just going to go do it.
Yeah. And then sometimes, also with delegation, I feel like I always feel bad. I'm like, oh, I don't want to, have to, make this person do this. I'll just do it. Kind of thing. I don't know if that really fits into the situation we're talking about. I guess that's just probably the church situation.
It does.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. So, we can run into that as managers at work or in the church or at home, wherever, that tendency. Yeah, Ashley, I agree. You say, oh, I don't want to burden that person,
Mhm.
or I have the tendency, or my site director at work, he and I do the same thing where we have an understanding of how things need to get done so well that we try to teach it to others and try to delegate it out, but we end up doing it for them. By accident. We don't
Yeah.
have to do.
Yeah.
So it's something to work on, for a lot of folks, I think. But that's a concept I wanted to throw out to you. Think about that trust. If we're a trusting person, or do we work for trusting organizations or not? And I think the more you can extend that, the better your results, or the faster your results are going to be. What else do you think would hold us back? Maybe we got burned in the past, right?
Oh yeah.
I think that can have an effect too.
Mm.
Hi, Tammy. Okay.
Hello.
Welcome. Yeah, so work-life balance, flex time, extending the trust. What other issues jumped out to you guys? Any further comments on what Rosemary brought up about social issues at work?
I thought it was interesting. Rosemary and I talked about this in our meeting today when it kind of brought up the point of divorce, like in the workplace, and then it was talking about. I just thought it was so interesting when it in one of the articles when it came to the section talking about HR managers, what they're supposed to do in that situation. Like if someone comes to you and they're like, oh, I just got a divorce, and instead of being like, oh, I know, what you're going through, or like, oh man, he's such a jerk or something. You're not really supposed to give any advice because you're not really the professional in that area. But you're kind of just supposed to kind of just kind of keep your distance and then allow them to get their, problems worked out from, the, not assistance office, the whatever they set up in the company to help them out. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Like an employee assistance program type thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's good.
Yep, that's a big deal. Have any of you been in that scenario? I mean, as far as you're a manager and you're trying to support individuals in difficult times like divorce.
Well, I think where I've seen it the most is when somebody comes to church and tells you how horrible their husband is and they're going to divorce him, and tells you all this stuff, and if you give them advice and tell them to get rid of the jerk, then 2 weeks later they're going to come to church and have their arms around him and remember that you called him a jerk, and then you're the bad person. And so it's really valid advice to listen and be caring, but don't take sides and don't give advice.
Yeah. I was also wondering, does that also have to do with not just kind of giving the wrong advice, but was one of the points they were trying to make was that managers should kind of keep that little bit of distance between their relationships with employees? Like they shouldn't kind of have that confiding in each other type of relationship as well? Or is that were they just making that point because you might give kind of the wrong advice?
What do you guys think?
Probably a little bit
I
of
think
both.
it's a mix.
Very good. I agree. Mix. I've been on that side where I've had employees come in and tell you that. Obviously, the first thing you do is advise them to go to EFPA. The thing that's a manager has to take into account is how this is going to affect the employee and how it's going to affect the job that he's doing.
Uh-huh.
And so you have to be understanding. Understand if he calls in one day and says, I just can't function today because, I had to go to divorce court, or I saw my ex or something like that. But yet, you still have to run the business. So it's tough. It really is. unfortunately, I've been on the other side of it. So I have been through a divorce. So I know what it feels like to be on that side and to go through all the things that you go through, and you know, having to work 3 jobs to make ends meet, and not seeing your kids, and you know, it's not pretty. And again, it affected my work because I worked at I worked in a factory at the time, and it was very dangerous. And I was going on 4 hours sleep.
Hmm.
And just to let you know, I did that for 18 years, going on 4 hours sleep. So um, if it wouldn't have been for some of my coworkers to look out after me, you know, say, hey, get your hand out of there, you know, and hey, wake up, and you know, slap me in the face and things like that, um, I wouldn't be here today. So you know, and then again, like I said, the management understood also, because that's the first thing I did was went to my boss and told her that I was going through this, and just to let them know that there may be some times that, you know, I'm not going to be in here. So it's tough.
Yep, very difficult situation. We have a manager at my work just barely went through a divorce, and same thing. And I think, you know, Ashley, your question and your point was right on. You have to, you need to be supportive, but you're still, at the end of the day, you're still their manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the same thing I see happens, if, and many of you probably experience this too, if, you know, you have a peer that you work with and suddenly you become their manager or vice versa, that relationship changes. Have you noticed that? Or it should change.
Yeah.
It should change. It's hard to be your friend's boss.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And it's hard to draw that line. You know, I don't know how we draw that line of, hey, how friendly do I get with my coworkers? It's up to you. But I know definitely in HR, you know, you become friends with folks, and then once down the road, they're in your office because you have to terminate them.
No.
It gets challenging. So,
Yeah,
did you run into anything like that? Any advice?
I haven't really been through that, but I just kind of the case study last week that we studied kind of had to do something with it where like that one guy was sick. He was getting really sick, and basically the manager, she kind of just had to leave her feelings out of it because, you know, you would want to have compassion on him and be like, okay, you know, he's not doing his job, but he's sick and I don't want to fire him because of it. But because he wasn't doing his job, that's where you have to wear, you know, your HR hat and just be like, well, you know, I have to leave my emotions out of it, and I have to, you know, fulfill my responsibility as the manager. So.
Yeah. So where do you think we draw that line between compassion and accountability for the job?
Well, I think that manager did a good job because you know, there was the 2 guys, I think it's Phil and Terry.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but you know, and working with them, she expressed appreciation for things they had done and pointed out some strengths and said, in this area or in this department, it's just not working. I think you see it, but you're good at this, this, or this. But when the one guy got sick, the whole group rallied around him and helped him out. And so whether he got terminated or not, he knew that they had given him the support that they could give him.
One thing that someone in our group, actually, one thing that Renee brought up in our group was that she thought it was interesting that she remained friends with both of them. And she was very, you know, self-described as being, you know, very particular and blunt and straightforward. with how she delivered things, but she still was able to maintain a friendship with them. And I thought that, I mean, that takes I think, a particular talent to be able to walk those lines of being able to, be straightforward, and like you just said, Rosemary, of, pointing out, that you do this and this well, but also to, remain their friend. So I thought that was interesting. I think it would be difficult. I think it's difficult. We had to, in our office, we had to let, someone was terminated, a while back, and I had to just help with a couple of things, and I had to help with the write-up of, before, all the documentation, and then I had to, get the box for her to, put by her desk so she could clear out her desk. I felt so guilty the whole time. I just felt it's hard. It's not an easy thing. So anyway, I don't know. Do you ever get used to it, Brother Stanley?
No.
No.
No, I don't. No, I don't. It's you think it'd get easier, but it really doesn't. And the one thing that really helps, though, is what we've discussed previously, is if you're following good process. So,
right.
If you're coaching that employee and you know that expectations were clear and you've got corrective action patterns in place, then that people get themselves fired.
Right.
And so you know that you're not attacking them or ruining their life. But
I mean, it certainly wasn't like it was just came up. I mean, it had been, she had several, I don't know, whatever you want to call, like disciplinary or, corrective plan actions. I don't know exactly what they're called.
Yep. No, that's good. That's what we want.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other scenarios. We talked a little bit about layoffs and different things that do come up. I think that would be challenging. Fortunately, I've never had to lead out like a reduction in force or anything like that. In my industry, that does happen.
Right.
But fortunately, I haven't had that at our site just because things have tended to work out. But
yeah.
So, I guess, you all have your storehouse of experiences, but, that's been a good lesson for me in the last few years is maintaining really strong relationships, but being able to be business-oriented when necessary.
Right.
So, balance. So that's why I wanted to ask that question. How do you do it? How do you find the balance? And I think it's just case by case. So, any other thoughts from the reading? We've talked about a bunch of the issues it brought up. Life comes to work with people, I think, is one of the big things. On the flip side of that, something that I've tried to do and my wife has tried to help me do is to leave work at work. Can you relate to that? Is that true?
That is really true.
We were talking about that the other day, and I was talking with our COO, and I was telling him, I said, sometimes the line, and I found, especially since my kids are all, at college and gone, it's difficult to draw that line because I have extra time at home, and so I find myself, doing things at home, that I didn't finish at the office, and so that line is really blurred. And my husband, he has a busy job as well, and so, sometimes we find ourselves, well, like last night, we found ourselves sitting next to each other on the couch, both with our computer, just working after we've been at work all day long.
Yeah.
Hey, at least you're together.
I know, right? Look at you, silver lining. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so I don't know. Again, we brought up that idea of balance, and
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but there's an article I read that the author of it was saying we can't find balance. We just have to live by our priorities.
Yeah.
Do our best.
Yeah.
So If you, some of you, if you have like a personal mission statement, I always ask our new hires, how many of you have a personal mission statement? On occasion, one will raise their hand. And I know I've written a few up in my life, sometimes for school, other times for work or whatever, because sometimes I'm a nerd that way. But the reason I ask them that question is usually a company is driven by a mission statement and they have a set of values, right? Each one of us has values, whether we know them or not. So it's important for us to identify those because values determine what we do. And so what's our values? If you had a list of 5 or 6 of the values that determine what you do, what would they be? So I think that's going back to us on an individual level, and I think our LDS frame of mind can help with that. Putting family first, and putting the gospel first, putting the Lord first, and then everything else tends to fall into place. So. And if you had experience with that, setting priorities, sticking to priorities amidst competing values.
I think it's probably a constant challenge. And one thing that I've noticed is that your priorities change as your situation in life changes. And we can all have, I think our core priorities, Heavenly Father and the gospel, and and then we have our family, and then other things that are important to us. They might stay solid and be our main priority, but I think as our life changes and our situation changes, our priorities oftentimes change. So I think that's an important statement what you just made about our priorities are our priorities, and we do best with them. But I found that in my life.
Good. Thanks. Yeah, I just thought I'd share that. I was trying to think, about this topic this week, and I kind of always tend to put it on the individual level, but effective people make effective organizations. So just wanted to throw that out there. Anything else? Any other thoughts? What you learned this week? What kind of stuck out to you? A big takeaway?
Probably the thing that keeps coming to my mind is in dealing with all this, every situation is just enough different that you've got to have a lot of versatility and be willing to give a little here and there, and not expect everything to be exactly your way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the topics that we learned this week, just because I was just thinking if I were a business owner, some of these things I just would never think of. Like we talked about today, the having drug tests for, I know it's kind of a weird note to end on, but I was just thinking about it today after I read it. But like you just wouldn't think when you're hiring someone that, okay, yeah, it's probably a good idea to, make people, take a drug test, because it can have kind of bad consequences in your business. Like you could end up losing a lot of money, taking on a lot of liability. They could probably not be effective, sleep at work, it just kind of listed a bunch of problems, and I just kind of never really thought of something like that before. And then also when we talked about, being like an HR manager and how you should handle, issues going on with people's lives, and I don't know, so just everything that we've learned, it's been really good for me, because some of these things seem like they're so obvious, yet I just hadn't really thought of it, so it's good to be aware of all the topics that we've covered, for sure.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I do recommend drug screens.
Yeah.
From personal experience at work.
Oh no.
But yeah, for safety, for the brand of your company, for the brand of the people that you're going to hire after that person, it's a good thing. But yeah, we don't always think about those social things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Anyone else?
Well, I can't believe the class is going to be over in a couple weeks. That's what I'm really surprised about. It's gone by very quickly.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this class. So
I do.
Yeah.
for you know, especially these Wednesday night meetings, I really enjoy them, and I feel like I've learned a lot. And I mean, like Ashley was saying, it's like, I mean, there's just so many moving parts in HR, and so many logistics that you just don't think about, and so it's been really interesting. I really enjoyed all the case studies that we've been able to read. I just feel like they're really very applicable, and I've learned a lot from them. So.
Totally. Yeah, thank you, Brother Stanley.
Oh, you bet. And good feedback. You know, we appreciate the feedback because that helps us move forward, make the class better. So.
Yeah, I kind of went through withdrawal this week because I wasn't able to get to the talk last week, so I'm kind of going, oh man, I missed it. I was sitting there waiting for my link and I didn't get it, and I'm going, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened, so we missed you, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm going, okay, I know they're doing something. What's really cool?
Oh man.
Yeah, but I agree with Tammy. I've learned so much. You know, I kind of went into management without all these skills. Just kind of got thrust in there and had to learn on the go. And you know, so I wish I would have had this then because I would have been a little more prepared. But I think I did okay. But a lot of it, to me, in management skills is just your personality. You know, how you were raised, and I mean that, or at least that's what I used, was how I was raised and my personality, and I just didn't let things overwhelm me, and just tried to take them one day at a time, one job at a time, one problem at a time, and just dealt with them each individually.
That's great. Lots of street smarts for you, huh, Jeff?
Yeah, I came from a background. My dad was a workaholic, so I came from that background where work was very important. So I tried to instill that in all my workers, and sometimes it worked, and then sometimes it didn't. So, but I try to be very fair.
That's good. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your thoughts and feedback, and a few of you mentioned kind of the same theme of being able to respond to each situation. And in one of my classes, in some of my training, there's the phrase adaptive confidence. You know, being able to face a situation confidently, but being able to adapt.
Right.
No one situation is the same. And so, if we can have that in our tool belt, you know, you can handle anything, really, if you know what your resources are. So, hopefully, this class has helped with that. I definitely am biased. I love the material of it, and we'll continue to keep making it better as we go. So, and we'll figure out iLearn as we go too. Thanks for your patience on that.
Yeah.
Are you? Well, I can tell you that iLearn 3 is better this semester than it was last semester.
Yeah, it's getting better. So, and by next semester, I think all courses are in iLearn 3 now. So
yeah.
So it'll be the go-to place now. So, do you have any questions for me?
Are you going to graduation, or do you usually not go to graduation?
I haven't really. I usually kind of read the speakers' comments and stuff online. But maybe someday. I haven't really thought of that. I'm not too far from Rexburg. I'm only an hour and a half from Rexburg, so.
Oh, okay, cool.
Are you graduating, Ashley?
Yeah, I am. I'm excited.
Oh, exciting.
Thanks.
Right?
I'm excited.
Yeah, I think when I'm 90, I'll graduate, and I think I'm going out there to get
Totally.
I'll be right there with you.
Yeah, I'm going to walk along. I have my cane, but I'll be going.
So, Ashley, what would your degree be?
Business management.
Awesome.
Great.
Ah, nicely done.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited.
Not very good.
Yes, you are.
Yep.
Good. Well, I appreciate all of you and all of your good thoughts and your discussions and hard work this semester. It's not a lightweight class, so I know that, and I appreciate it, your efforts. So if you need anything, let me know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the final.
Yeah.
Jeff, would you like to look forward to buying two?
Yeah, we can do that offline.
Did you get to access the article?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much. It just didn't come across. I was able to get it on my phone, but then finally through the email, but then it didn't show up on my other email. But yeah, I've started.
Okay.
So.
Yep, and I don't have. There's always a question of length and stuff on the questions. No length requirement on the questions. I think just be lengthy enough to give a good answer that
Yeah, just go for it.
that you complete your thoughts. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, can we go into it and then go back out, or do we have to do it all at once?
So it lets you save as you go.
Okay, good.
I think you can save it, and then because as long as you save it, you're still in your first attempt. So be sure to save it. I would just attack that the way you want. You can compile your answers like on a Word document, or if you do enter them into the test, save each answer as you go, just so you save your work and don't have to backtrack. That's frustrating when that happens. So I don't need you breaking your computer screens when you lose your answers.
Yeah, I haven't looked how many questions. I'm always concerned on how many. I haven't looked at that yet.
I think it's nine questions.
Oh, that's not bad. I can handle 9.
It's not bad at all.
It's when there's
It will put you over the edge, but 9.
Yeah.
but sometimes less means more. You know what I mean?
I know.
So,
I know. Yeah.
yeah.
You guys will do great. And actually, I would just use it as an opportunity to kind of synthesize everything in your mind and put together what we've done this whole semester. So try to make it a learning experience. Don't stress too much.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
Great evening.
Okay.
Best of luck, Ashley.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Congratulations.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.